Welcome back to another episode of Spilling the Tea with Dr. T.
And Gabriel D.
That's me.
And Lavali.
That's her.
So the trio's back. Today we're going to be diving into another topic, and today it's going to be
The key to anal sex.
the key to anal sex. We're going to be talking about something that I guess we have touched on in the past a little bit, but what is the key to anal sex?
Today we're going to get to learn so many things and details, and I have a few questions for you, as always.
And that's what I'm here for. And of course, anal sex can be a fulfilling experience for many, but it's very important to understand what's going on, prepare so you can make sure that you're comfortable and have the maximum amount of pleasure throughout the process.
Awesome. So why is this topic of anal sex is so important that we keep talking about it over and over again?
Well, I think it's so important because I have so many patients that ask me about it. And I've had patients recently, in the past, and also throughout my training. It was never really educated,
Right,
in the family medicine practice or residency programs. And it's such a taboo issue. I feel like I never knew anything about it, especially growing up. I certainly wasn't going to talk to my parents about it. So hopefully someone out there, this video reaches them and they're just looking for some education or understanding on how they can best prepare themselves and make it as an enjoyable experience as possible.
And hopefully today we're going to get to learn a few of the things that you learn with your experience.
Exactly. And so really we're going to be diving into this episode to discuss relaxation, how it is extremely important, especially for the receptive partner in anal sex, so that they can enjoy themselves and avoid any irritation, any pain, any poor outcomes. We want to make this a good experience for you. So remember to relax. If you haven't already, sit back, relax now, and we're going to dive into why relaxation is so important.
I guess that's the answer for the question. Relaxation is key to anal sex.
Yeah, because again, this topic, this idea, especially if it's your first time or you're not really sure what's going on, can be very anxiety provoking. Yes. And that's going to result in a lot of tension all over your body. And you do not want to go into this type of experience with tension.
And you want to have fun. You want to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, so we're going to help you learn to relax so you can enjoy it to the maximum ability.
And so what anatomy should we know?
Of course, we got to start with the basics. So the anatomy we need to know, of course, is the anal canal. And there are two sphincters in this area. One is an internal sphincter and one is an external sphincter. The internal actually is not voluntary. It's created by something called smooth muscle. Smooth muscle is not something our brain can trigger on its own by our command to relax. So it's not something we can really do much about. You actually have to be relaxed yourself. You can't say, all right, it's time to relax. Your body truly has to be relaxed. And then the external sphincter, which is made of skeletal muscle, like the muscles in your biceps or your legs, those respond to your control. So you can always use your control to relax that muscle, but still you do have to be quite relaxed to be able to really allow it to open up, so to speak.
Fascinating how the body is connected. Our brain needs to be relaxed, so our body also needs to be in that relaxation mode.
Exactly.
And so why is this area so sensitive?
So the anal region is rich in nerve endings. And so nerve endings are always going to be responding to stimuli. So touch, sensation, temperature, all of those things. And because there's so many nerve endings, it's going to make it very sensitive. That being said, if it's tense or if it's constricted in the anal region, there's going to be less nerve endings as it's trying to protect itself. And if there's less nerve endings, there's also going to be less pleasure. Those nerve endings need to be at their maximum so you can have your maximum pleasure.
And so what is the game plan for relaxation before anal sex?
First, we want to aim for physical relaxation. Again, those skeletal muscles in the pelvic floor and the perineum, we can control those. So you want to try to relax them with your brain, with your control as best as possible. For some people out there, this can actually be very difficult. There's actually some physical therapy available to some patients that are not able to relax this area because either trauma, anxiety, or other past medical history issues can make it extremely tight and difficult for them to relax completely. So if you're out there and you're struggling to relax that area, you're not alone. You should definitely consider talking to your doctor or a physical therapist. There are many treatment options to help you, walk you through the process of how you can relax so you're able to enjoy your sexual experiences.
I feel like relaxation is going to be the main character of our topic today, but it's important to point out that in order to feel pleasure, you need to be comfortable.
Exactly. So that means comfortable in your environment, comfortable with your partner, comfortable with yourself too. So all those things need to be checked off before going forward with this activity. And again, so now that you've focused on the physical relaxation part that you can control by trying to relax those muscles, that external sphincter should then be responding because again, that is skeletal muscle, like the muscles we can control in our arms and legs. And next, we want to work on internal relaxation because we need to relax that internal sphincter, which we can't necessarily control. So things like deep breathing, Relaxing music, making sure you're in a calm environment can make a big difference there as well.
Create a mood for yourself. Find a good playlist.
Yeah, and then when you're ready for insertion or your partner is ready for insertion, you want to continue those same activities. So slow, deep breaths, gentle breaths as well. You don't want to make too much of a fuss
Yeah.
for yourself. Techniques like deep breathing while your partner is gradually and slowly inserting is going to make a huge difference in how you're able to respond by relaxing during the initial process.
I like that you mentioned gradual and slow because this is something that we keep talking in our videos. And why hurry?
Exactly. And the gradual insertion is also going to help those sphincters in the anal canal relax. So it's sort of working with your breathing techniques to ensure they're able to relax, you're able to reach that pleasure zone and enjoy yourself.
And I feel like sometimes in the middle of the rendezvous, we forget to breathe. So it's important to remember that.
Yes. So it's also important, like you mentioned, mental relaxation is also key, making sure you're keeping yourself calm, breathing. That way you can just focus on the pleasure and avoid any pain. And communicating effectively with your partner about your boundaries, things you're comfortable with, if this is your first time, if this is something that you're not sure is going to work well, that's going to also put you at ease and let your partner know what your limits are. So that way you're both going in this together with the same sort of mentality, both relaxed with the same common goal.
And we never talk about communication here in this channel.
Exactly. And it's important to note that anxiety is the ultimate sexual killer. So if you're going into your experience with anxiety, that can cause the release of these fight or flight hormones that may result in constriction and tension in both sphincters, as well as the fact that anxiety can cause a loss of erection and a decrease in sexual desire or libido. So want to avoid all of that. If you're feeling a little anxious, maybe take some time and definitely wait until that has passed before going into a sexual encounter, especially if it's one that is new or you're not sure how it's going to go.
And does relaxation improve pleasure?
Yes, you don't have to worry about whether or not those nerve endings are going to give you pleasure. When you're relaxed during anal sex, you are good to go. The reason is that when you're relaxed, those muscles in the anal cavity, specifically the internal and external sphincter, are going to release, allowing your partner to penetrate and to get more surface area exposed to those nerve endings. The more nerve endings exposed, the more likely you're going to experience pleasure. And not only that, when you relax, the blood flow is going to increase to the area. More blood flow, similarly to those nerve endings, is going to result in more pleasure. Again, the muscles relaxing in the perineum or around the pelvic floor are also going to be more vascular and more responsive to the pleasure that you're going to get from friction during intercourse. So relaxation equals pleasure.
That's great news. If you're not feeling enough pleasure in your sexual activity, be more relaxed.
Easy to do, right?
Yeah.
And while we're at it, don't forget to add in some lubricant. That's going to only facilitate further relaxation by reducing that friction that can occur. So make sure you're lube ready, relaxed, and the pleasure should be on its way.
And is relaxation important for prostate stimulation?
Yeah, so for those of us that have prostates, relaxation is going to be really important, allowing the penetrative finger, device, or partner to reach the prostate and allowing that to have more surface area as well. The more relaxed you are in the area, the more likely those nerve fibers are going to get stimulated. And of course, that's again going to increase vasculature to the area and increase blood flow. So relaxation is key to both anal sex and prostate stimulation.
Someone in the comments asked if everyone has a prostate.
Great question. If you're assigned male at birth, it's very likely you have a prostate unless there's some sort of genetic problem or some very rare case where someone is born without one. But many men have theirs removed if they have a history of prostate cancer or other medical conditions. So not all men have a prostate.
See, keep asking us questions. We'll get to them. Right, doctor?
Absolutely.
And what are some ways people can build confidence around anal sex?
Focusing on overcoming fear and anxiety is going to be step one. A lot of people have anxiety around anal sex because they have fear of pain or discomfort or the taboo around it, or maybe they're not quite ready yet. And if you are not ready, that is completely okay. That is number one to identify and a number one concern to bring to your partner. Communication, just as saying that, is the most important thing to consider, right up there with trying to overcome your anxiety and fear. That's because if you're not communicating effectively, especially before sex, you're certainly not going to be communicating well during sex and very unlikely to be communicating better after sex. So make sure you are able to address your anxiety and fear first, and then you want to make sure you're communicating effectively. And that being said, it's important to also communicate with yourself. If you're not sure how you feel in the situation, always go towards that negative side, right? I usually say focus on the positive, but if you're unsure, you always want to say no. You always want to go to something that is going to prevent you from making a choice that could put you in pain due to the fact that you haven't quite overcome those concerns you have in your head.
Absolutely. I think when going to sex, you should be the priority.
Yeah, at first, you need to think about yourself.
Yeah.
And then once you're with your partner and the activity has started, then it's about you both together.
Yes, exactly.
Sex is meant to be fun. It's meant to be pleasurable. It's meant to be a positive experience. And as you build those positive experiences, you're going to build more confidence in yourself and your sexual abilities.
Yes.
And never get discouraged. It's really important to remember that it can take some time to get comfortable, and every step forward is a success.
Are there any risks to not relaxing?
To be frank, yes, and we can break these into the physical risks associated with the anatomical areas that the risks are present in. And so you want to think about the internal sphincter, which we talked about, the external sphincter, the mucosal lining, as well as the anus itself and the perineum.
And what happens to the internal sphincter if we do not relax?
So if the internal sphincter remains tense or if it's forcibly stretched, this can of course result in pain, but we want to worry about the medical conditions associated with that, such as tearing or an anal fissure or a hemorrhoid. And we're going to get more into those diagnoses and what they actually mean later, but those are two things that can result if you're not able to fully relax and that internal sphincter becomes irritated.
Wow, that's crazy.
And in contrast, if this occurs in the external sphincter, if it's forcibly stretched or if it's too tense, it can result in different medical conditions, something called anal incontinence or painful spasms.
Wow, so relaxation really is important, not only for pleasure, but for our health too.
Exactly.
And remind me, what is the mucosal lining?
The mucosal lining in the anal cavity is actually made up of a bunch of cells. Those cells release a very, very small amount of fluid, which could be considered lubricant. And the main goal is to help remove any excess debris and to keep the anal cavity clear.
That does make sense. And can this area be damaged?
Absolutely. If you're not able to fully relax, those cells are going to also be tense. And of course, they are going to be lining the entire mucosa of the anal cavity. So if they were to get irritated or inflamed, it can result in abrasions. It can result in hemorrhoids, bleeding, pain. So of course, again, relaxation is going to be key to all the anatomical features in the anal cavity.
And to have a great experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And what is the perineum?
So the perineum is the area between the anus and the scrotum. And so all of the muscles there, if they're forced to relax or if they have too much friction upon them, they can experience trauma, making it more difficult for them to relax in the future. Very similarly to our brain, muscles can remember trauma as well, and that can make it much more difficult for future encounters to relax and to make sure that you're able to access the area and proceed with your rendezvous.
It's very interesting that our body has a memory.
Exactly. All the areas, the organs, the tissues, the fibers in our body do store memories. Not necessarily the same memories we have in our brain, but their version of what a memory is. Very similarly to the perineum, the anal cavity opening, so the anus, is also going to be very fragile when it comes to needing to relax. If it's too tense or too tight, trying to force it open or trying to stretch in any capacity is going to result in a lot of different options as well, including those anal fissures, hemorrhoids, bleeding, irritation. So from the opening of the anus all the way through to that internal sphincter, everything needs to be relaxed so you can really enjoy yourself and avoid any pain or discomfort.
And what exactly is an anal fissure?
So anal fissures are small tears that can occur in the anus that are often going to result in severe pain, bleeding, and discomfort.
Crazy.
And these can potentially be caused by receptive anal intercourse if there's not sufficient lubrication and sufficient relaxation. This excessive stretch that occurs is going to cause damage to that delicate mucosal lining, which thus results in the tearing. While there are a lot of topical over-the-counter options to treat them, like topical anesthetics, lidocaine, sitz baths, stool softeners, oftentimes they result in something called a chronic fissure because they won't heal. They continue to worsen and may even cause increases in more fissures to occur. That oftentimes has to be fixed surgically.
Only because you're not relaxed enough. That's crazy.
Yeah, and of course, there's many different causes for these issues, but relaxation can be a key component, especially if that is something that you are not comfortable with yet.
Right.
And the best way to either prevent them from occurring or prevent them from coming back is to ensure you have plenty of lube and lots of relaxation.
And what are hemorrhoids?
So hemorrhoids are swollen blood vessels in the rectal area that often lead to discomfort, bleeding, itching, and pain. Increased pressure or friction during anal sex can aggravate existing hemorrhoids to make them worsen or just aggravate the veins that are present there and cause new hemorrhoids to form.
Are there any treatments for hemorrhoids?
Yeah, and so again, you can do over-the-counter options like stool softeners, sitz baths, there's even some topical creams you can try. But unfortunately, they can also worsen, getting so big that they do require a surgical intervention. And sometimes if the pain is so severe, that's the only option as well.
Wow.
But in general, I will say the majority of hemorrhoids may even heal on their own and respond really well to topical options. And just because you have hemorrhoids does not mean that you can't participate in anal sex. But if you have any pain, bleeding, or discomfort, that's a reason to stop and wait till they heal before you proceed.
And what is anal incontinence?
Anal incontinence is the loss of control over bowel movements due to excessive damage at the external sphincter. Now, many people think this is very common, especially if they've never had anal sex before. They think if you try it once, it's going to result in anal incontinence, or if you do it repeatedly, it's going to result in anal incontinence. That is not true. You can have anal receptive intercourse many times before you have any issue like this. The problem is when you have receptive anal intercourse and you're not ready, or that sphincter is still too tight. If it's too tight or you're not relaxed, you're going to cause trauma to it, and thus that's going to increase your risk of developing this problem.
Right.
And there are ways to even prevent it from occurring. Those Kegel exercises we talked about in previous videos, you can just strengthen the perineum muscles or the muscles in the pelvic floor by just tightening. It's sort of like that sensation like you're holding on to try to stop yourself from urinating. I'm doing it right now. It helps keep it strong so that you can avoid anal incontinence.
Well, if you haven't seen our video yet about the Kegel exercise, we give an explanation step by step how to do it.
Yeah, so take a look. And in the most extensive cases, sometimes anal incontinence can result in the need for surgical repair. The good thing is that surgery is typically extremely successful and oftentimes covered by insurance. So that is something to consider for those out there that are concerned or want to talk to a doctor about maybe having this issue. There are remedies that can help improve your symptoms so you can get back on track.
Awesome. It's reversible.
It's reversible.
Are there any tips that we can recommend to help with relaxation?
Absolutely. So you can start by considering dilators. So if you already know on your own you're a tense person, maybe you have anxiety about going into a sexual experience, you've never had anal intercourse before, or you've tried it and it didn't work so well for you, you can consider purchasing something called a dilator. They come in multiple sizes. Of course, you want to start small before going large. That's going to allow you to prepare yourself and allow your body to respond to something penetrating that area, teaching your body to properly relax so that you can enjoy yourself without any irritation or the risk of any of these medical complications that can occur. Secondly, think about lubricant. There are many different options you can try. Water-based and silicone-based are both great. Find one that works best for you, one that's going to help to maintain that reduced friction. So typically that's going to be more of a silicone base for more people because it's going to help it to stay moist longer. Then you want to communicate. We've talked about this many times. Communication is key, not only with your partner, but with yourself. Are you ready? If you're not sure, talk to yourself a little bit more. And finally, when you're in the act, take breaks. You are allowed to tap out for a moment with your partner. Maybe tell them ahead of time you want to take some breaks. You're trying to get better at this. You want to make sure that it's a good experience for everybody involved and that you're ready to do it again in the future. I'm sure they'll be understanding. If not, that's probably a red flag. So take some breaks. Give yourself some time so that your body can adjust and be ready for whatever comes next.
4 lessons they learned today here. Start slow and gradual. Lots of lubricant. 3, communication. Communication is key. And 4, take breaks. It's important to take breaks. Drink some water and then go back.
Yeah, listen to a song, chill, have a snack. You're in no rush. Take as long as you need.
I love that. Sex is meant to be fun, pleasurable, and relaxing. We match.
So hopefully you learn to embrace some relaxation strategies and tips before your next anal encounter. That way you can make sure you are achieving as much pleasure with as little discomfort and pain as possible. Hopefully this was a somewhat entertaining video for you. It is meant to be a laid-back discussion about a topic that is quite taboo. If you have other things you'd like us to talk about, please leave them in the comments below. We really do enjoy investigating these issues, talking about them together. If you haven't already, please
subscribe the channel, like the video, share if you want, comment if you have any questions, or comment if you have any recommendations. But thank you for watching. We look forward to seeing you next time. And
see you next week.
Bye. You have superpowers.
Really? What superpower do I have?
You have many superpowers.
So many you just can't think of them.
No, I just cannot say them because this is YouTube.
Oh.
Have superpowers in bed.
Oh.